Welcome to the Art Elevator podcast, where we explore fascinating stories behind the scenes in the art world. This episode was brought to you by Appraisal Scribe, where you can optimize your appraisal process with their all-in-one platform. To stay inspired and informed, you can join our email list by clicking on the link in the show notes or by going to larissawild.com and signing up for our podcast list.
Simplify your workflow with our intuitive, cloud-based platform, Appraisal Scribe. Appraisal Scribe enables you to generate professional USPAP-Compliant reports and collaborate seamlessly with your team, all while maintaining secure access from anywhere. We offer customizable templates so you can have exactly what you need to get the job done. Easily add associates and outside experts to your appraisal projects so you can collaborate from anywhere. Add collection details with our Object ID form, and upload photos and documents on the go. Increase your productivity and revenue with our one platform solution for appraisers. Discover the future of appraising with Appraisal Scribe.
Our guest today is Makeba Boateng. Makeba is a cultural strategist and the founder of Fashion Forum Africa, dedicated to preserving and promoting Ghana's rich textile heritage and fostering sustainable fashion practices. With over 3 decades of experience in public relations, appraisal, and curation, she's worked on globally recognized projects, including the Victoria and Albert Museum's Africa Fashion Exhibition, now touring internationally. Makeba is reshaping the narrative around African heritage and creativity for a global audience. Makeba is an accredited public relations practitioner, a USPAP-compliant personal property appraiser leading her company, Boaten Appraisal Service, and a passionate advocate for indigenous African design. Her work bridges Ghana's textile traditions with global innovation, inspiring a sustainable future for African fashion and design. Her work celebrates the intersection of history and modernity, blending storytelling with advocacy to elevate indigenous African textiles and design. A champion for sustainability and cultural preservation, she collaborates with artisans, designers, and institutions to create meaningful projects that honor tradition while inspiring innovation. By promoting indigenous techniques and fostering cross-cultural dialogue, she aims to inspire the next generation of creators to embrace their roots while shaping a global impact. Makeba's work is a testament to the power of tradition in driving contemporary relevance, making her a trailblazer in the world of fashion and cultural advocacy. Welcome, Makeba. We're so excited you're here. First question, your NGO Fashion Forum Africa has a mission of reclaiming Africa's fashion heritage and culture. Can you share about the origins of your passion for African fashion?
What I would say is that my formative years were in Lagos, Nigeria, and then I grew up in London, Middlesex in the UK. And between the two countries, we were always surrounded by family and friends. I mean, everybody seemed like they were family because we had to call them auntie, uncle, which means their children automatically are our cousins, which later I found that it's not true. It's just a form of mannerism that we have as West Africans. So my parents had a lot of friends, particularly in music and in sports, because my father used to be a footballer at one stage. And all these different characters were characters and they had interesting personalities. And I was so in love with their dress, their sense of style, their sense of freedom, their sense of wearing their culture in some cases for you to see very proudly. So that whole combination of like music, fashion, dance, I didn't even realize till, hearing the question that it's what laid the foundation for, I guess, what would lead me to Fashion Forum Africa and what would lead me to this work that I've been doing. And also the significant work, like things I've done with the Victoria and Albert Museum, part of Africa Fashion Exhibition, and also things I've done with UNESCO. I contributed to the Africa Fashion Report. So it really stems from childhood, and it's led me to realize that this is where I want to be. This is my life's work, and I just want to keep championing the fact that Africa has a rich culture with regards to tradition, and I feel that it needs to be more respected on the global fashion industry.
I love the way that it's just such a full circle passion. It comes from your roots and it encompasses your upbringing, your cultural heritage, and it's so expressive. You're such a fun, expressive person. So I think this is such a perfect choice of career for you.
Yes, I've been told that. It's like, guess what field I'm in? It definitely will be, if it's not fashion, it's creative.
Yes. The next question I have for you is, we've been lucky enough to have a virtual video tour of your private gallery in Ghana. What are some of your favorite items in this collection?
This one's very tough because honestly, I like every single piece because each piece there is a story, and that's what I like about the gallery. As you rightly said, it's a private gallery. It's almost like an extension of Fashion Forum's work, and it helps me to see the different ways that the stories can be told through different pieces. One of my favorites probably would be I have a little child slipper that is made out of leather and rubber. It's a traditional slipper called a hiniba. And it's very rare, I feel, these days to see an original one that is very small. And these slippers, they have some nails in it. And the thing is, when you purchase it, or when you used to purchase it back in the day, they would not hammer the nails in place till the child puts the foot inside. And that means they make sure it fits well. And then the child takes the foot out and then they hammer the shoe. Then you take it with you, or you buy it like that with the nails still raised, and then somebody will hammer it down after the child fits the shoe. So I would say that's one of my favorites because it's so cute. Because as I said, you don't see it so small these days, especially the authentic ones made out of pure leather and rubber. Another thing I really love, I would say, is something that I created with the artists, or with the craftsman rather. What it was I think I had someone many years ago when I was doing design and came to me with some samples of buttons made out of, I think it was wood or calabash. They told me that they could also do different materials, and I'm really into natural material and sustainability material, and I always try to be as natural as possible where I can. And so, together with this gentleman, we not only created buttons out of wood, calabash, and coconut, we also created jewelry from those pieces. And for me, I've always said that Africa really is the champion when it comes to sustainability because it's in our DNA. We never throw things away. In the past, a piece of cloth, this cloth like I have on at the moment, once I finish with it, I naturally pass it to someone in the next generation, and that girl would pass it to someone else in the next generation. That's how it goes. And things like doing these pieces, this jewelry and the buttons out of the calabash, the coconut, and the wood is sustainability, is recycling, using raw materials and making something useful out of it, and it's coming from the soil. So that definitely would be my second favorite. And I think the third one has to be a piece of a hand woven, right? So I have a piece, it's an Ewe, it's actually called kete, but most people say Ewe Kente or Santi Kente, but it's really wrong. It's a Santi Kente and Ewe Kete. It's Kete. They're both hand woven. They're very similar, but different. The Santis is bold colors, reds, yellows, greens, in your face, bold. This is all about royalty. Whereas the Ewe people from the Volta region, their Kete, which is also known as Ewe Kente, is more subtle colors, it's more pastel shades. They have different symbols inside it, things to do with lifestyle, with maybe even cooking, to do with wisdom, signs like that. So the Ewe Kente and the Santi Kente is very different, although they're both hand woven. I like the piece I have because it was created about 20 years ago near the Volta region, and my brother had purchased it at the turn of the century. So it's quite a huge piece. And these days you don't tend to get kente that is very large. I mean, you can get it, but it's expensive. And to get it with real cotton is very rare because now they use a lot of rayons and different threads. So those three would be my favorite. The child slipper, the coconut wood calabash jewelry and buttons, and then the hand woven cloth, which is the mighty kente of Ghana.
I love that. I love that. We just went on a journey, like a visual journey, even though we can't see these things, and learned so much about the correct nomenclature for the cloth. And I just love this idea of the sustainability and using things around you, but also wearing something that is layered in not only meaning, but generational love. That's great.
Yeah, I agree completely.
Absolutely.
And speaking of design, you represent Kofi Ansah and publicize iconic Ghanaian fashion designers. Can you tell us more about the designers and their creative inspirations for their fashions?
As you rightly said, Kofi Ansah is the main person that I promote. I generally promote the icons of fashion in Ghana. Some of them are even behind me, actually. So we have Cher Julie, we have Saint Osei, Ricky Osei, we have Tete Ajedu, these labels Ajedu of shapes. We have Mali Kofi Okujoto, and we have Joyce Ababio. And then, of course, the main one I promote, which is Kofi Ansah. And the thing with these designers, Kofi Ansah came back to Ghana roughly early 90s, but each of them have their own unique story and aesthetic. So we shared Julie, who studied in Paris. She came with that kind of flair, the European flair mixed with the African cloth and textiles, that kind of thing. So everything was quite chic and done to detail. And then we have Mauli Okujoto. He was famous with a label called MKO.GH, which was his initials. And what he did for Ghana when he started designing, also in the 90s, probably late 80s, was that he tapped into the youth market. He did a lot of like street clothing, street wear for Ghanaian youth, which wasn't something that was done in those days. And because of his branding, the name MKO.GH, a lot of young Ghanaians would travel the world and would want to wear the T-shirt only because of those initials and the GH, which meant we're representing Ghana. What he did for music, especially new musicians that were into a popular music at the time, which is still current, is called Hip Life. The Hip Life artist, Mali Okujoto, MKOGH, literally branded them. And so Hip Life and MKOGH was like a wonderful synergy that exploded at the right time, that the youth needed some kind of like something different, something that was not like what their elders wear or what their parents wear. They could wear denim that was made in Ghana and designed in Ghana. And Mauli did all kinds of things like, baseball caps, T-shirts, purses, things that the youth liked, a lot of accessories. So he was a very interesting designer, and he's still with us and he's still going strong. Ricky Osei, what was important about Ricky Osei was such a visionary. He wanted to literally expand how we manufacture and how we produce in Ghana. So he would go and source different like factories in different parts of the world using samples for Ghana to reproduce into garments. So Ghanaian aesthetics and it be made properly internationally. He has some huge ideas. And with Ricky Osei, he was just such an artist, in terms of music, in terms of theater, in terms of artistry, in terms of fine cloth. He loved that kind of thing. So the combination, when you saw Saint Osei or his other label Brass, when you saw their fashion shows, you didn't know what was about to hit you. It was going to be just something that just awakened all your senses, not just your visuals. And who have I missed out? Tete Ajedu of Shapes. He's got an interesting story, which we'll go into another time. But one thing about him was that he wanted to change the way that men wore their clothing. He wanted to elevate African aesthetics and African shapes to a different level where men felt very good wearing clothes that were different and not your normal, I don't know, shirt and trousers. So he's famous for like avant-garde fashion, I would say. Lots of shapes, symmetries. His colors were very interesting. Every piece of clothing that Adidio Shapes made told a story if you just looked at it. You know, it had so many different shapes, levels, and the structure was interesting. And he clothed a lot of statesmen and presidents around the world. I think the last one is probably Joyce Ababio. Now, she is the person who, I tell you one good thing about Joyce Ababio, she helped the younger people appreciate kente cloth because kente was worn as a special cloth for ceremonies and for important occasions. And so it was seen as something that you wore when it's really, really important or when there's a naming ceremony or a wedding, things like that. And so what she did was that she started to use a lot of pastel colors. I mean, I told you that Eve Kente uses pastel shades as opposed to Santi Kente, which uses bold colors. But what Joyce Ababio did was that her pastel shading were tones like bubblegum and spearmint, you know, that kind of things, like a modern take on the Eve Kente. And she made it so fashionable that the young people wanted to wear Kente. It wasn't just for the reserved for the older folks. And then the main person, Kofi Ansah, was like an experimental designer. He means a lot to me. I know majority of these designers, the ones that have passed and the ones that are here with us. Kofi Ansah of blessed memory. Can I just say it's his 10-year anniversary this year? One thing about Kofi Ansah was he experimented a lot. He liked to mix different fabrics, different materials together. So it was very experimental and he tried all kinds of techniques on his clothing. He was trained in the UK at a very high level and he came back to Ghana to show that clothes could be made in Africa that were of very good quality. More so, he's probably one of the ones that actually championed ready-to-wear clothing made in Africa.
That's so fabulous. And I was going to say, we're going to put some images of all of these that we're referencing into the show notes. So be sure to click on the link below so you can get a visual on all of these incredible designers and the patterns and the fabrics that Makeba is talking about here. So Makeba, you're also an appraiser. What excites you most about having appraisal services as a part of your company?
It's just an interesting story, you see. I didn't set out to be an appraiser. Okay, so it was kind of like many years ago, just before we got into V&A Museum, I was trying to appraise the garments or value at the time. I was trying to find the value of the garments for Kofi Ansah's collection, right? And I contacted people online. I made so many phone calls. I called everyone I could think of that should know, you know, who to call, right? You calling the museums, curators, even secondhand shops or antique shops, because we don't really have secondhand shops here in Ghana, you know, and nobody knew. I even went to England. I contacted an art appraiser. She was also like, I'm not sure. So I literally became the person I was looking for. So that's why I'm kind of like, I didn't set out to do it, but you know, it complements my work with Fashion Forum so well. It blends in perfectly with regards to my passion for African heritage. And also, it's put me in a position where I'm able to realistically value the garments of these designers, these past designers, and also to teach people about value of such things. And it can only add to the recognition of our textiles and our fashion coming from not just Ghana, but from the continent. Appraisal is such an exciting area. I mean, it's a lot of work, but what is exciting is that I can see the future is looking good. I mean, when you look at art, for example, coming from Africa, I mean, we all know that, yeah, we're doing really good in that department. A few years ago, don't quote me, roughly 2021, Ellen Natre, an artist who's originally from Ghana, but studied or lived a long time in Nigeria, his work was sold at Sotheby's for over $4 million. That is art, okay? Textiles and fashion is also coming, okay? So I just think having Boaten Appraisal Service just helps me to have that added professionalism to what I already do. So not only can I tell you or give you information with regards to our fashion, our textiles, our design, I am also in a position where I can actually give it value depending on what it is your intentions are. So that just makes me so excited because I just feel that there is so much untapped potential in this market in Africa. And I'm excited because I'm at the forefront of it, especially for Ghana and the broader African market. So I just think it's awesome.
It really is like that missing piece in your stewardship picture, isn't it?
Absolutely, yes.
Yes, stewardship was the word that was coming to my mind. I was thinking how this new addition to your services were just dovetails so well with your scholarship and your stewardship and your passion for African fashion. So we're excited for you too. And my final question is, what do you most want our listeners to know about Africa's fashion heritage?
You know what? Oh, it's so difficult, because we all know that the continent is huge. Okay. But the reality of it when you're on ground is not what you read about or see on a map. It's not possible. Okay. So I think what I want people to know really is that the history that we have in terms of bespoke tailoring and custom made garments to sustainable practices that have been part of our culture. I think Africa is a leader when it comes to that area of things, and it hasn't been recognized properly the impact that Africa has when it comes to sustainability. Africa, fashion and textile and so forth have influenced the global scene in so many different ways. People like the fashion designer Stella McCarthy and Burberry and so many others have tapped into that over the years and shown that, yes, they too appreciate this textiles coming from this continent and jewelry and the way we probably cascade our jewelry, also similar to the Asian traditions, the way we do makeup, the different markings that we have. Each markings means a different thing. Our narratives, which is on our cloth, which means something, is not just a piece of cloth or it's not just a dress. If you read into it, you understand that those colors are there for a reason. Those patterns actually mean something, and you can go to a chart that tells you exactly what that pattern means. And so I think I want the world to know that it is so rich with regards to its tradition that there's just so much potential. But we need to, us in the continent, us of African people and diaspora, we need to document it. We need to record it. We need to tell our story, which slowly we are trying to do here and there. But I think it's time for Africa's contribution to be recognized on the same level as other fashion capitals. And this is the time for it. Everyone's crying out sustainability, but we're the masters of sustainability. We just need you to work with us. And this is where you can learn all that from, is this continent.
Thank you, Makeba. That is so inspiring. And we're really honored to be able to share your expert insights with our listeners. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you so much. This has been really wonderful. And, I'm always nervous with doing things like this. I don't do it that often, but when you're given such a chance and a platform to really, really share and to try and disseminate information about something that you feel so heartfelt about, which is important to not just you, but to your people, all I can say is thank you so much for pushing me to do this, because it only adds to the work that we're trying to do at Fashion Forum Africa and the new entity, Boaten Appraisal Service. So thank you both, Larissa and Sarah.
Well, thank you, Makeba. I could listen to you all day. Your energy is contagious. And I think one thing, just to circle back to what we were talking about at the very close there, is what is so special about what you're representing and what you're doing is the level of meaning and cultural heritage within that whole aspect. And be it a painting on a wall or face paint or whatever it might be, this expression of what you're wearing is something that everybody relates to. And I think that it makes me want to redo my wardrobe. And I wish I had a heritage of stuff to wear, so I'll have to borrow from yours.
No problem. Or go and check out Studio 189 there in New York. There's a hi to Rosario and Abrima of Studio 189. This is silk with batik on it. I mean, and it's coming from Ghana, and the cotton, the silks are coming from the continent of Africa. So, yeah, I've got you.
Awesome. I am going there. I'll put the link in the show notes.
Yes, and we'll have all of Makeba's links too. So all of our listeners can follow her and check out her work and stay posted on all the exciting things you're doing. I get so excited by everything you're doing. So thank you so much for sharing that with us.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for joining us today on the Art Elevator podcast. To stay inspired and informed, join our email list today. You'll receive updates about our latest creations, valuable tips, and a deeper look into the art world. You can find the link in the show notes below or by going to larissawild.com and signing up for our podcast mailing list. Here's to elevating your life with art and creativity.